remind you of a couple of I'll remind you of a couple of quick things. Um, we would like everybody to try to be here on time. Things start to get dragging on at the end of the day, end of the meeting. So try to be on time. We request that everybody have their cameras on um, during the meeting, so we know we're focused. And again, remind you that everybody knows if you're um, doing something else, if you're multitasking. Everybody can tell. So if you think you're trying to do something else, everybody's going to be able to tell that you're doing something else. So just try to focus on this. I always find that you'll learn a lot from presentations, all of that. So with that, just one quick reminder to the mentors. If after your last presentation today, if you could come back to the main room, I'm going to impose on you maybe 10 or 15 minutes more to do a quick debrief. That will avoid us having to schedule a mentor meeting this week. So just come back after you're finished and we'll talk a little bit about how things are going. Um, so we're going to start. Next slide, please. We're going to start with our good friend Chad. Um, he is the quintessential entrepreneur that's been starting up companies for how many years, Chad?
Since I was a kid, 9 years old is when I first got going.
And he is one of our multitaskers, and he's running three companies at the same time, three entrepreneurial companies, one of which uses some technology out of UCR. So he's here to talk to us a little bit about his experience. We'll let him talk for a few minutes, and then we'll have a short question and answer for them. So again, Chad, we know running three companies, you don't have a lot of time, and we really appreciate you taking time out for the group. So please go ahead.
Okay, no, thanks. Happy to be here. And Jay had obviously reached out and set this up, and he just again asked me to sort of walk through my history and my entrepreneurial journey. And so I didn't prepare any slides, and so happy to take questions at any time or at the end. But so as I mentioned earlier, my background actually started when I was 9 years old. I was born and raised in Calgary, Canada. We were sort of a middle income family, and we lived near a golf course, not on a golf course. And one day I was walking by and found a few golf balls. And next thing you know, I'm selling them back to golfers. Well, I was 9, 10, 11. Now I have kids working for me on the weekends, collecting the balls. I would be out there every day selling them. Had amassed tens of thousands of dollars by the time I'm 11, 12 years old. And then I actually wanted to buy one of the first video games. It was called the Atari 2600. And I didn't want to part with my money. So my mother said, well, they have this thing called the classified ads, where you can buy and sell used things out of the newspaper. So she showed me that, and I found four that were a really good deal and much better than buying brand new. She had to drive me around, but we went all around the city. I ended up buying three out of the four and then started selling those back in the paper the following week. So that was the end of my golf ball career. And now I was buying and selling video games. So I had hundreds of these consoles and I was selling the games separately. And then basically anything I was interested in, I was the perfect demographic. I knew exactly what the difference was of the BMX bike, the Kuahara versus the PK Ripper and things like that, and small little nuances. But again, I was that demographic. So then I was buying and selling skateboards and BMX bikes. And then I moved up selling computers. Then by the time I'm about 14, I'm selling diamonds, artwork, gold, jewelry, things like that, going to auctions. And again, selling it back in the papers or through various websites, or not websites, but newspapers or auctions themselves. Then I was buying and selling cars, again, long before I had a driver's license. So by the time I'm 16, 17 years old, I was the only person in high school driving a Porsche 911, which my parents forbid me to buy, but it was my money, so I used it. Then I put myself through university. I went to a UBC in Vancouver. And after that is when I got more entrepreneurial, where I started investing in companies. Started by following research reports put out by analysts, and was not doing enough research myself and just following what the analysts said, and had amassed millions of dollars and lost it all. So painful lesson, but a lesson that better to learn early in the career rather than later. And so then I just started doing my own research. Again, started investing small in companies, publicly traded companies on the stock exchange. I had quite a bit of success. And then it just made sense where I was buying the whole company. And so I've now bought, built, or grown 30 companies. I've taken a dozen companies public on various stock exchanges around the world. I've raised about $1 billion for those. I'm a one-person shop, So I don't have any partners. Basically, I'm the only unique part from each company that has some similarities. Otherwise, I start these companies, I build industry-specific teams. I can talk more about the ones I've taken public because it's all publicly disclosed with the SEC or with the other stock exchange regulators, but I can give you a couple of examples of some of the ones I've done. So earlier on, I got interested in uranium. And that was just, I'm a ferocious reader and try to take it all in and try to find obviously opportunities. And what I could see was nobody had been looking for uranium for about 30 years because it was a super depressed price. It was $8 to $10 a pound. And that was due to decommissioning of warheads in Russia. But Russia had announced they were going to stop decommissioning those. They were going to keep the enriched uranium themselves for their own nuclear reactors. And so I saw a supply demand issue that was coming down the road. So I started scouring the world, but again, very hard to find uranium properties and even uranium assets or geologists that have worked in uranium because nobody had been doing anything for 25 years or so. So I went to the global leader Cameco, flew out to Saskatoon up in Canada, got to know one of the directors, took him out for dinner, and ultimately I bought a property off of Cameco. They had spent $42 million developing it, but because it was coming to the end of its life, once you spend money, you get to own the property. It's for a certain amount of time, and then it falls off if you don't spend more money. The government takes it back. So they were basically going to walk away from the property. So I paid them $10,000 for this asset. 18 months later, I'd taken it public and sold it to a larger company, mining company, for $125 million. Some of the other ones I did, I bought a wallpaper mill in Germany. Even when I bought it, people are saying you're crazy. Nobody's using wallpaper. But I changed out management, changed the product mix. I paid privately for that one. I paid 5 million euros. I got 50% vendor financing, had that for about 6.5 years. Changed the product mix. As I said, we became a global leader in what we were selling. We were doing over 30 million a year in EBITDA or earnings by the time I sold it. And so we dividended out about 20 million while I ran it. But then I sold it to Glatfelter on the New York Stock Exchange for 210 million. I had some assets I bought off the Bank of Canada for $500,000 and sold that to a public company for 17.5 million. I've had tequila, software, oil and gas, diamond assets. Gold is hot right now. Back when gold was not hot, I bought 7 existing gold mines in Ecuador with large gold reserves. I paid $1 million, all stock deal, took that public. We grew that to $450 million market cap and had a large hedge fund, but a investment firm up in Canada that specializes in resources. They ultimately own 20% of that as a publicly traded company, which is very rare. I had some pulp mills in Canada. These things are worth $1.5 billion to $2 billion, but they were basically bankrupt and had no future. So I was able to get one I got for $1 and another one I paid $1.4 million for. Then I got the government to kick in 250 million into one and 125 in another. And then basically I put a power purchase agreement in place with the government that would generate 20 to 30 million of EBITDA on a 25-year contract. So we were not trying to make money on the product the mill is running. It was just a byproduct. We were making green energy and selling it back to the local power company, which again was the government. Another one I can tell you about, and maybe we'll give a little more details about it because there's some interesting stories in it that you won't find in the capital markets. But I bought a banknote mill in Switzerland. So we made all the Swiss francs, the banknote, the currency, made the euros for a dozen countries, passports and things like that. It was an okay business, but everything was going more digital. And so I grew that business to about 8 million in profit. And then the Swiss government changed. They were pegging their currency to the euro. And when they dropped that, it materially changed our cost. Everything was just a flight to security. Everyone wanted the Swiss franc. We're competing globally. And I know you guys are going to be talking a lot about competition. So we got hurt very badly. And the mill basically went to more or less a break even overnight. So we lost about $8 million of our profit just on currency exchange fluctuations and trying to compete on a global basis. We were a small mill, and Switzerland, obviously a very expensive place to operate anything from a manufacturing perspective. So I did a complete pivot, and that was basically just after a little bit of frustration, I realized, well, I've got this valuable asset, and I guess it's valued in Swiss francs, so it's actually worth more today than it was right before the peg. So I flipped it, and what I did was I pulled all the patents out and moved them to a Bermuda entity. Actually moved them through a Luxembourg entity and into a Bermuda hold company. Then I started selling things. So I sold that mill I'd paid 7.5 million Canadian for with 50% vendor financing. There was finished inventory in the basement worth $4 million. So I already got 100% of our money back. So it was basically no money into that transaction just from selling the finished inventory they'd written off. But then I went, as I said, changed the overall strategy to try to, believe it or not, lose money. So we went and I sold the ancillary farmland for $12.5 million. We were making our own power and had the water rights. So I cut a deal with the local power company, sold them the water rights, sold them our 4.8 megawatt turbine, and we signed a very expensive power agreement long term. And the higher I was willing to pay for the power, the higher I would get as a purchase price. So I was able to extract capital, and that was my goal, to take advantage of the strong Swiss franc. So once I extracted that, I then did a sale leaseback. So I sold the land and buildings for $55 million to a local pension company. Same thing. The rent was going to be about $1 million a month. I said, hey, what if we move it to $2 million a month? Would you give us twice as much money? Because you're just chasing a return on their investment. And so we're able to find a deal where I extracted even more capital just by paying higher rent. So basically worked every angle I could to increase our costs, but extract capital. And then I walked into the Swiss National Bank and said, unfortunately, you guys aren't pegging the currency. We're no longer viable. I'm going to have to shut the mill down. And they said, well, that's unfortunate, but in our contract, it says if you close down, we just get the mill. We have the ability to take it over. And they were absolutely correct. And of course, I knew that going in. I said, that's great. You can take it over. But just so you know, you've been making this new banknote. It's called DuraSafe. It has special windows in it. They've launched half of their series. So half of the banknotes are going to this, and they've already announced publicly they're doing the other half. And I said, you're going to have the mill. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's bankrupt. You can have it. But unfortunately, you're not going to be able to make your own banknote because the patents are now sitting in Bermuda and you don't have access to those. So I was able to sell to the Swiss National Bank the patents. And of course, I got the mill kicked in as well, but for $21.5 million. And unfortunately, I won't be getting Christmas cards from the Swiss National Bank anymore. But that's how business works. And so with that, I think we're at our 15 minutes, but I can keep going a bit more, or do you want to open it up for questions? Oh, you're on mute.
Talk a little bit about helicoid, because that was a kind of a technology out of the university that sort of started with a technology, and then you've moved it into, from an invention to a business. Can you talk about sort of that experience and
Yeah,
all of
sure.
that?
So actually, I can talk about the three companies I have in my portfolio now. So one actually is another one before I get to helicoid. It's out of the University of Riverside as well. So Professor Matt Connolly, he's been working on chemical catalysts to help basically work on recycling the hardest plastics that there are to recycle, the plastic bags and some other ones, especially with contaminants and things like that. So we've started a brand new company called Polyloop Recycling. We've secured that technology and the patents. I've now got Richard Schrock. He's a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry. He's our chief technology officer. And we've got another lady as an engineer. I think she had 70 engineers under her, chemical engineers in polymer. So she's working on the commercialization side. But we're currently operating under a grant, a little bit more work to do for the next year or so. And then we'll look to raise money and hopefully bring that out and fully commercialize it. Then, as you mentioned, helicoid. So that was a technology developed or patented by Professor David Casalis and a couple of his students there at Riverside. David has since moved over to Irvine, but they're still involved with the company. And so what he has is an internal architecture that improves composite performance.
Arms or no?
Sorry, is there a question?
Yeah, sure. Or you don't want to?
Just somebody's not on
Wait,
mute.
actually, can we just do
Someone
test?
needs to mute.
Yep.
And let me see if I can find them here.
And
Keep
so
going. Keep going, Chad.
And so we have architecture that basically improves composites. And again, you guys, I know you're going to talk about competition. When I looked at that and was evaluating that technology, it had to be significantly better than the competition. Offering a manufacturer, because everyone's trying to bring down manufacturing costs, but to be able to offer a 2, 3, 4% performance improvement is just not enough to get people's attention. It's going to be a long, hard struggle. Obviously, it takes time and energy and distraction from operations. People are more interested in bringing down the cost of their existing manufacturing by speeding up machines or trying to find small little improvements that way. But to take on some new technology, it's got to be a gap improvement. And so this technology typically improves performance by 20 to 30%. So we take 20 to 30% of the weight out of a product, which you could think about aerospace applications. That means the plane is lighter, so you get better fuel efficiency. You get 20 to 30% less material. So there's a cost savings right at the beginning as well. And so we've now got about 50 projects underway. with that technology. So we're in all CCM hockey sticks. They're the global leader. All the best players in the NHL use it. And now it has our helicoid internal architecture. We don't make anything. We just have this technology to tell them how to line up the fibers by putting it in rotation. And with that, you get this performance benefit. And again, you can go to our website and find out all about it. But with that, again, we have no cost of goods and probably do 500,000-600,000 as an example, just from hockey stick royalty revenue this year. We're in pickleball rackets. And then again, as I said, about 50 other customers. We work with BMW. We just got a 10 million British pound grant with Spirit Aerosystems. We got a 6.3 million British pound grant with Jaguar Land Rover. Hyundai's involved. We work with Northrop Grumman. We've got 2 defense applications, one for our mortar base plate, as well as naval launch tubes, torpedo tubes we're working on. We're working on bulletproof vests. We just finished a big conference and presentations with wind turbines and things like that. And so that company is just plugging along. It's a great technology, very high margin business because, again, we just licensed the technology. As an example, we were just at CAMX a month ago, which is the biggest composite conference in North America. There's 20,000-30,000 people there. There's a lot of really big companies, Boeing's there and all the big automobile manufacturers. And the most prestigious award is called the Innovation Award. And we're competing against, again, all these multi-billion-dollar companies and putting in anything that's composite related. And we've won it the last 2 years in a row. 2 years ago, we won it for our wind turbine blades. And this year we won it for a EV battery enclosure. So again, that company is going great. And then my last company I'm working on is a medical device. This is my first foray into that. I've never done it before. But we found this technology out of Israel. So I've licensed from a university there, 19 patents. They're done by Israel and Valencia, Spain. And what they have, or what we're going to be making, is a pair of eyeglasses with some cameras and a light source inside. So light will bounce towards your eye. It's a non-visible light, bounces off, and it's captured by a camera that's aimed at your eye. We hit it with one pulse of sound. Your eye will vibrate. And from those vibrations, AI can calculate what is your eye pressure. And so everyone has pressure in the eye. And if your eye pressure is too high, you have what's called glaucoma. And that you won't even feel it, you won't even note it, but it's putting pressure on the back of your eye, restricts the blood flow, and you go irreversibly blind. So it affects 300 million people. And so again, I just secured all this technology. I launched the company 2 months ago, and now I'm just launching this week to raise 15 million for that in a Series A. That should be all the money we need, and hopefully we're going to help prevent blindness in the future as it gets through FDA approval and should be launched in about 2 years. Those are the 3 I'm working on.
That was great. My name's Peter. I'm a mentor with the team. I have a follow-up question on helicoid. So you've described like the holy grail of business models, for deep tech, where you have this IP and you license it out and you have zero cost of goods sold. And I'm interested if you could elaborate a little bit on the path it took to get people to want to license this IP, because I have a feeling that it's not just you secured some patents and then all of a sudden everyone just started knocking on your door to license your IP.
Yeah, no, exactly. I've had 2 challenges. One is with raising capital for that company because nobody likes royalty deals. Everyone wants to see us manufacturing something because they can really see something tangible coming out of the door. And so with a lot of the companies, and we're dealing with a lot, I would say 20 to 30 of the companies we're dealing with are multi-billion-dollar companies. They have teams of engineers when we have these calls, and they often start with, we don't want an NDA. We just want you to share everything you can. Then they usually take a month or 2 and say, is that even patentable? Because we don't want to be talking to you or spend money on something we don't even have to pay you for. And they've all come back and said, yep, it's patented and patentable. And we've got a large portfolio that covers as much as we possibly can. We probably spent $500,000 just on patent work since I've acquired the original technology, just to try to button everything up. So once they're comfortable with that, then they go through again, they still don't take our word for it. So then it's a long sales cycle where we have to hold their hand and go through prototyping, starting with coupons. And they all repeat the exact same coupon, and we show them the test. Here's the 50 other ones we've done, but they don't take our word for it. And they don't trust the data. They want to do it themselves. Then they move up to a full part. Then they have to get that part certified. And so sporting goods is the fastest. It takes 2 to 3 years from the time we make the introduction or start to tell them our story and what we have. Automobile is more like 5 years, and now we're adding an extra year because of all the tariffs. All these companies have basically put a halt on all R&D projects this year. Wind turbines are about a 5-year project, and then aerospace is ballpark 10 years, can be 15. So we're going in, and our holy grail will be into the fuselage of a plane. Most Boeing and Airbus planes now are 50% or more composites, and we can take 20 to 30% of the weight out of that. My head engineer, or one of my head engineers, 35 years at Boeing, 68 patents, all in composites in his name. He said he was in charge of projects at Boeing for $20 to $30 million to take 2 pounds out of a plane, and our technology can take 100,000 pounds out of a plane quite easily. But again, as soon as you change any piece or part on a plane, it affects the balance. So it's only really going to be utilized in the next design of a whole plane that has helicoid within it. If we just take a piece apart and we make it a little thinner, now the rivet holes don't match, the aerodynamics change, the weight and the balance are misaligned, and it's just too dangerous. So they're not willing to make changes on the fly. But as I said, we've got about 7 or 8 aerospace companies we're diligently working with, but it's a long, slow, painful process.
Thank you.
Any other quick questions? We have time for maybe one or two more. Gonna let you go, Chad, unless you want to stick around. I know you got a lot of stuff on your plate today, so we appreciate.
Oh, I have a
update.
question. Sorry, I
ahead.
was on mute. Hi, Chad. How are you?
Go ahead.
Right.
So we have several companies, Chad, in our portfolio that are in the materials space, and they are in this maybe difficult problem in which they want to supply product to the company. These are large corporations, but they don't have the capital to make it. So it's like they're stuck. But I hear you, and you're saying you have grants from all these companies. So maybe this is an addition to what Peter said. Maybe can you put a little bit more detail? Is it, did you get these companies to actually fund you for the production of the material, or you have to finance it yourself or through capital? Because this is not a one company issue, it's a multiple companies facing the same problem.
Yeah, so I like to use grant money as much as possible. Obviously, it's non-dilutive capital. It does move a little slow, and there's a lot of work to get it and secure it. But I think we've gotten 6 grants in helicoid so far. In terms of the direct to customers, so typically, and this is just my own personal view, I always make sure the customers are paying something. Otherwise, you might be in an R&D department, and it sounds exciting. I'll use BMW. You're in the R&D department of BMW, but if the person has no authority, and the people who actually build the cars outside of the R&D department are not vested in it or motivated, or this could just be an R&D initiative, and you spend a lot of time, money, and effort, and then you come up with better results than I even wanted or expected or what the targets were, but there's no commercialization on it. So again, I always make sure that they're contributing some capital, but of course you don't want to lose a project. So then you usually have to provide some of your own capital to match it. So we obviously never charge for our people and personnel and services. Our FEA simulation software we do as pro bono work. But if there's actual raw materials that have to be purchased or assembled, we make sure that the customer is paying for that with actual hard dollars. It might be invoiced through us. And then we try to work with universities, which is a great way to keep costs down for R&D. They've got great equipment, great talented people, and obviously we can joint venture with them and keep those R&D costs to a minimum on the way in. So it's a challenge. I'm happy to discuss individually. If anyone can get my email at our helicoid website, just look up Google Helicoid Industries and you can track me down through there. But again, happy to help make some introductions, or who knows, if it's on the material side, we are constantly using different other materials too. Ceramics, there's a super foam company out of Riverside that we're now working on a couple of projects with. We got introduced, I can't remember who made that original introduction. I think it might've been Brian Sue from UCR. But again, we're in so many different applications where, again, we need different things, some for thermodynamics, some for conductivity, some for heat, a couple of nuclear applications, things like that. So unsure what those materials are that you're mentioning, but happy to...
Yeah, we'll take you up on that and we will follow up with a conversation. And the other question is, we had a very lively discussion this morning about the situation of raising capital today, and you follow this licensing model. What do we have 23 teams here in this class. What do you advise these teams that have interesting technologies and now they need to go to commercial? How do they determine what's the path to take?
In terms of raising capital, it's incredibly difficult right now, especially if you're not in AI. So there's based on what I'm sort of hearing, I'm assuming these are pre-seed or seed level types of investments. So obviously, just a concept stage or early rudimentary prototype, not ready for the full commercialization. That's again my assumption. And in that, that used to be you didn't have to have any revenue, and you didn't even have to have a working prototype, and you could raise $500,000 to $1 million. Now, because of the opportunities that all these investors are seeing, and especially the higher risk speculative VCs and things like that, they're saying, well, a couple of high school kids are throwing together some stuff with AI, and they're now generating $1 million of revenue. And so that's sort of the new threshold. So anything that's not AI in a computer and generating already $1 million of revenue gets very little attention. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, it's just really difficult out there. So it's, you really have to look for then more strategics. So there are funds that are clean tech only. So if you fall into that space, that's where you need to really, really focus and try to find those types of investors, because they built their fund on it. They're a team that have experience and understanding of it. And so they're still moving their capital without going completely over to AI. But and again, if you can have an AI component built into it somehow, it does help.
Good, thanks.
Okay. We appreciate your time, Chad. Thanks.
Happy to be here. Good luck to everybody. And again, if anybody has any questions at all or wants to connect, find me on LinkedIn or come through my website. It's chadw@helicoidind.com.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Okay. I think you're up now, Doug.
Okay.
Educate us, please.
See if I can share this and tell me when you can see my screen.
It's coming. And then if you could break maybe five or so minutes before the top of the hour, that would be great for a few questions.
Okay, I'm trying to get this to go into presentation mode. Tell me when is it in presentation mode for you guys?
I think you should
Still,
It's in presenter mode.
I'm sorry, it's in.
Presenter mode, so we can see your notes.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can switch it. How's that?
That's it.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for being here tonight. I'm Doug Kollmyer. I'm one of the EIRs, mentoring a couple of the teams. And I'm going to talk tonight about the competitive analysis that is in the next slide you guys will prepare. And I'd like to shout out to Frances because she did a lot of work on this program as well. So first of all, what is competitive analysis? Well, it's important to understand that this whole thing is, hang on a second. Oh boy. Now I have the wrong thing up my screen.
No, I think it's because it has animation, so you can keep clicking, I think.
What happened? Where am
Oh,
I now?
it's because they're animated. If you keep clicking next.
No, I'm sorry. What are you guys looking at? I'm my screen.
Oh, your screen says why conduct a competitive analysis.
Okay,
So
but it hasn't gone any further than that.
no, because it's animated. So if you click next or next.
No, I get
Well-
that. My problem is my notes have disappeared.
Oh,
So anyway, I'll just talk through it then. So why competitive? Oh, sorry, my ding, and now I'm.
Doug, if you go back to your presenter mode, we could see your details there.
Well, I'm sorry, that's disappeared. I can't see it. Hang on, you know what? I'm going to start again. Sorry. I don't know what happened, but let's try this again. So can you see it now? Yep. Okay. I apologize. I don't know what I did. I was trying to get so I can read my notes because my notes are covered by everybody's beautiful faces. So anyway, let's start with why competitive analysis. It's basically to understand your competitor's strengths and weaknesses versus your own, and how you can best leverage your strengths against their weaknesses. The most important thing is to identify the differentiating features and benefits that your position has versus the marketplace. And something to really understand is that this is based on your customers' opinions from your customer discovery, not what you think about your technology or product. So that's a really important issue to understand. The benefits that you present are the ones that your customers see solves their problem, and that's what key issue here in competitive analysis. So you implement the effective initiatives that improve your competitive advantage against your competitors, as your customers tell you. So there's something to understand is what kind of marketplace are you in? Are you in a red ocean or a blue ocean? So a red ocean is a crowded space with fierce competition, low profitability usually, and there be sharks and blood in the water. That's commonly called a red ocean, as opposed to a blue ocean where you have weak competition or very little and higher profitability, and the odds are that you can be much more successful. So a good example of who was in a blue ocean strategy is Cirque du Soleil. They started in Montreal and they had little or no competition for many years. They were not a circus, they were not an opera or a stage play. They were something in between. And so they could charge a premium for what their product was and were able to do that for a number of years. That's a great example of a blue ocean strategy. And clearly from a competitive analysis, there's a lot of advantages to that. So why is competition important to you investors? Well, they assess the strengths and weaknesses of your competitors and your fit in the marketplace. And based on their analysis of how strong you are on a competitive basis, will be willing to invest in you. So they understand that your strategic approach to how your competitive fit is in the marketplace has a lot to do with whether the investors are willing to support you financially. So we want to talk about the different kind of competitors. The first one would be a direct competitor, and they would have services or products that are very similar to yours. The second kind would be an indirect, and so they would have products that are somewhat similar to your product, but really are some kind of an alternative that wouldn't be a direct competitor. And then there's a future competitor. For example, in the gaming industry, that might be a gaming company that has a product that they're going to release that will be either a direct or indirect competitor to you. And that might affect how you decide to work in the competitive environment in your marketplace. So really, the status quo is also very important. And what I'm talking about there is most businesses assume that their customers are willing to change. And that's really not the case. Getting customers to change is very important for a whole variety of reasons. But the assumption that they're just waiting for you to show up so they can buy your product is just erroneous. So many qualified customers don't find value in purchasing something new. They're afraid to change, or perhaps they have a contract to buy from a particular supplier for the next few years. There's a lot of reasons they might not change. And those are things that you really need to understand when you're talking about a competitive analysis, especially if you're in a red ocean kind of marketplace. So the real challenge is to convince the prospective customer to make a change. And the best way you can do that is through the customer discovery and determining what problems they have and how you can better provide solutions compared to your competitors. So how do you start doing this? Well, you start with your customer feedback. You're already talking to customers. Make sure you can talk to their suppliers or ask them about their suppliers and what kinds of things the suppliers are not doing that they need to get done. Who are the main players in the marketplace? Often you'll find that there's 2 or 3 players that contribute more than 50% of the marketplace. So those are the ones you need to focus on the most. What are their key success factors in the industry? And Are the existing suppliers meeting their needs? I already kind of mentioned that in number one. Ask open-ended questions and listen. That sounds familiar. That's really part of your customer discovery. So you can expand the customer discovery strictly from talking about the solutions that they're looking for to some of these other issues about the marketplace and your competitors. So intelligence gathering. Obviously, you can talk to customers and suppliers. You can do research online, look at their websites. You could purchase their product if you can afford it and try it and see how it works. Talk to their customers and see what they think about it. And I think this is really important. AI now is a wonderful tool to help you discover these competitive advantages. That makes it so much easier. You can prompt AI and you can find out all kinds of things about your competitors much more easily than you could even a year or so ago. So what is a competitive analysis grid? Well, along the top of it, you're going to put your competitors. Along the side, the features that you present. And remember, the importance of those features are based on your analysis from your customers, not what you think it is. And I'll also point out price is a big issue. As a startup, you might have a strategy to have a lower price than your competitors. But if your competitors are well financed, they can easily lower the price and drive you out of the market. So price is not always a really good choice, but it's also an important one, so you can understand what is the profitability of the product or service you're offering. So you create this chart with all the information you can determine about your competitors and the features and benefits that are most important to your customers. And once you've gathered all in this information, you can put it together in a simple, easy to understand chart. And I'll give you an example here of one. So this is a competitive matrix by a company that we had, was called EcoBus. And they had a product that allowed the operator of a bus to operate more safely and save money at the same time. And so they came up with these benefits you see on the left, and they presented this chart. Now, I want you to notice they use pluses and check marks and X marks and so forth. That's really kind of confusing. I really suggest that you use one symbol, whether it's check marks or plus marks or whatever you want to use, but don't use the mixed message, because really what you want people to look at this chart and in just a few seconds recognize, oh, this product's much better than the competitors. So you're not trying to establish all the information you have when you do your research. You're trying to display that information in an easy to understand chart that shows why your features are superior to your competitors. Here's another format you might use. This was a imaging software that they used, and they determined after looking at all their competitors that they could do this image much more quickly, and that the image would go to a greater depth under the skin. And they could do it quickly and more effectively than any of their competitors. So you don't have to really use one that use check marks, and you can use a variety of formats that just shows why your product is so much better than the others. So there are potential pitfalls. First of all, not understanding your customers' values. I said that the order that these features should be presented in are what your customers tell you are most important, not what you think they are. And so you really need to understand what the customer wants to be able to create a good chart like this. And I go back to make the comment about the investors. They're really going to look into this, because this is one of the more important things investors are going to consider if they're thinking about investing in your thing. Use a matrix to build product based on the maximum features versus minimum features defined by the customer. To understand this, what I'm talking about is MVP. What is your minimum viable product that the customers are interested in? Because you could add all kinds of bells and whistles at additional cost, and that really won't help a customer choose your product. So understand the features versus your MVP. talking to customers allows you to best position yourself against your against your competition. Disruptive technologies. So they fundamentally change the landscape, and it can cost existing companies their entire business, basically. Two of them we can think of, Uber and Airbnb. Both of them changed, well, Uber changed the way transportation is done. And, there were a lot of taxi drivers who had paid $100,000 for their license that were basically out of business. It was really, really disruptive for the existing taxi business. And Airbnb monetized extra space in homes. As a matter of fact, they were so effective, they've changed the price of housing in many of the European cities. And they're really trying to change that a little bit now. So here's a question. What will drones, self-driving cars, and AI do to the competitive landscape? And those are the things we're seeing that are changing today. Certainly the example of drones in the Ukraine are changing the strategies of the militaries around the world. Self-driving cars, I think that's where Musk sees his production going, more than just retailing his electric cars. He's looking at self-driving cars and also self-driving trucks. That's going to change the trucking industry pretty dramatically. And AI, boy, I tell you what, we had a discussion this morning about how important that is. I think they announced yesterday that Amazon is going to lay off 30,000 people. They're replacing that with AI. And many of them are in their management, not the people you think of who are moving the material through the warehouses. So disruptive technologies are something you really need to understand when you're considering the competitive landscape. So status quo is also a competitor. Continue to innovate. I know this group has got some really innovative ideas, and I'm sure that next week we'll find out a lot about your competitive marketplace. So I hope I'm in time. And Art, or do we have any questions about this?
We have time for questions for sure.
Hey, Doug, a quick question for you. What would you say is one of the most common mistakes companies make in looking at assessing competition, or just seeing how competitive they need to be versus others?
Well, I'd say two things. One I mentioned was just basing it on price. So I can do this for less expensive.
Yeah.
I can do it less expensively. The other one has to do with not really understanding your minimum viable product.
Right.
In other words, what is the minimum product you can produce that will solve your customers' problems? Because a lot of times people think, well, I got to put all these extra features and benefits in there, and you don't. That changes your cost structure. So MVP, I think, is very important.
The one thing I might add is sometimes, and you've heard this before, is when people say we don't have any competitor, or we don't have competitors. That is never true.
Right.
Everyone has competitor. You mentioned status quo is competitor. And if you thought, what do you think? If you think about common mistakes people make in the INNOVAR curriculum, I would offer that coming with pricing that's too low, or having a price-based strategy, which you touched upon. Would you agree with that, or add or comment upon that a little more?
Well, I think I said the price-based strategy is a really poor one, because any competitor who has more money than you can lower their price until they drive you out of the market. And that's not going to take too long for most startups. But back to what you said about no competitors, and I apologize, I should have commented on that. Any investor who hears we don't have any competition will immediately discount investing in your product, because they'll figure you just don't understand your marketplace well enough. There is always a competitor, and sometimes if they're weak, or you have a solution that's far superior to existing products, that's far more compelling for investors than anything. But you really have to do the research to understand what are the alternatives to your product. And saying there is no competitors is not an option. Thank you, Steve, for bringing those up.
Doug, I wanted to ask you, I think I understood the concept of how to identify the future competition, but could you speak a little bit more, please, on how to identify direct and indirect competition?
Indirect competition? Yeah, so Direct competition is pretty easy. I mean, it's somebody who offers something that's just like yours. I mentioned the gaming industry. So in the gaming industry, indirect competition might be other television or even books that you read. So that's something that, you know, is what is an alternative to your product that could influence somebody's decision not to buy yours because they're going to pursue some other indirect product. And as regarding future product, that's not easy always to figure out, because then that means you have to understand what your competitors are doing for the future. That's something that's not easy. Again, AI can really help. You just have to understand how best to query AI to get the right answers. But future product, it can be a big impact. I mean, you're coming on the market with your product, not understanding that a existing competitor has something that's even better that he's going to introduce next year, and basically take you out of the market. So future products are important in that sense. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you, Doug.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I'll just make a quick comment, Doug, to actually echo what you said. I don't know what we have in the template and presentations for all the teams for doing that slide, but I agree with you that it needs to be extremely simplified. So I'm not a big fan. I mean, like a lot of the mentors, I review 100 pitches a month. You know, don't make it complicated. So if you use the table, as Doug said, don't try to go with like 3+ or 2 stars or 1. Like, it's just usually a yes or no. Obviously, you want to be check boxes all along. Your competitors are usually, you know, yes, no, you know, not as good as you are. That's the point. But I would suggest to make it fairly simple in the design, because we can get lost. And usually it goes in the same way, right? So if you want to say, you know, name the line as is, you know, you're always a yes, right? So if it's cost competitive, for example, right, versus, you know, so make it that way. And I think that's much better. So I totally agree with what Doug said about how you present the table.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and remember that you want somebody to look at the table and in just a few seconds
Yes.
understand that you're the best solution.
Don't do whatever.
Right.
Don't
This
do
is-
what's
this
on.
is terrible.
Don't do this.
Yeah.
And don't add like numbers or whatever on it.
Can you see? Can you see my slide?
Yes.
I don't like that slide, Francis.
Well, I know you don't like the slide, but this is but the reason why I'm bringing it up is because it is in the template, and this is from Auto Sampler. And the reason why I'm bringing it is because all of us can learn on this very quickly. I agree on several points that all of you have made. It's like be consistent with the symbols, right? And also don't mix up all the symbols in here. But remember that the idea and the main goal of the competition matrix is that, as Isabella and Doug pointed out, is that way everybody can see you and your competitors and why you are better than the competitors. The only thing that I'm going to say about this, Isabella, is that I like that they use the benefits instead of the features, because you know most of the time they put features in as part of the criteria for competition. Okay.
Can I make a comment too, Francis?
Sure, go for it.
So look at the last 2 lines, fast results and sensitivity. They don't determine that there's any competitive advantage for Auto Sampler. So if there is no competitive advantage, don't even include it. You're not showing that. And the other thing I want to make a point of is on their cost sample. They've got a 1 check mark, and then they got 2 and 3 X's and so forth. Make sure that the metric you're using is the common from one thing to the next. Don't mix and match, like one's bigger and one's small. Make them all the same.
I have a question on kind of what you just said.
Yeah, Brian.
You said if there's no competitive advantage, don't include it, but isn't that also like telling your investors you don't understand your competition? I mean, you're not going to do everything better, right?
Well, that's true, but they can ask that question as long as you can answer it. So the point is you want to make it simple to understand. So I would suggest 4 or 5 lines maximum. You don't want to have extra lines if they're not important. So, you know, you can include them, but I guess the point of this slide is to show why you're better than everybody else. Stephen?
Yeah, I was just going to add, if you're doing a pitch to investors, you're probably going to be limited in time. So most of these quick pitch events are like 5 to 7 minutes. Sometimes the presentation to an investor group is 15 minutes. So the competitive analysis slide has to be super simple because you don't have a lot of time. So what I always recommend is, you know, green checks and red X's, and that's all. And then highlight your column, your product with a green box. So make it really easy for the audience to see, oh, that's their product. I'm seeing a whole bunch of green checks there. All these other products have lots of red X's. Bam, you're done. Move on to the next slide. Keep it simple.
The only thing I would want to maybe emphasize when I see these competitions is that many of the speeches focus on features that are not important. The plus and minus need to be related to specifications of features that matter to the customer based on those interviews. So if the customer is saying, I care about process time, so that should be one of the features in the competitive matrix, plus or minus. But if the customer does not care about that, then let's not list it, because that's what I see many times, focus on things that are not really a true differentiator for you, and also that is something that is not relevant for the customer. So that's something that you need to be very careful as well.
Yeah.
If I can add something to what Rosabelle just said, and this is not to discount the matrix-based approach, which is fine, but my experience is that people don't remember, you know, a 10 by 10 matrix, what was in there. What they do remember, as I think Rosabelle was just mentioning, is what are the salient differences. So my advice always is to think about the 2 most important features that you do better than anyone else, map them on an X and Y axis. You end up automatically at the top right-hand side. Everybody else hugs one of the axes, and people can remember, oh, this is the company that did A and they did B. No one else does A and B. So just another way to look at it as well. A little bit simpler to parse.
Yeah, thank you, Shoma. It's true. Steve made a similar comment in the chat. I was going to bring it up, so thank you, Shoma. Any other questions? I don't see any other hands.
Okay. Right on schedule. Before we break apart, a couple of quick things. It's really, really important. It's really, really, as soon as you're ready, it's really important that you do customer interviews. Some of you have struggled a little bit with it, and the essence of this program is for you to get out in the field and talk to customers and do that customer interview process. If you're unable to do it because you're just unable to find the right people, talk to your mentor and we'll help you. But if you haven't found the time to do it, that's problematic for this course. You need to be working on this and getting customer interviews. Most likely next week, if you haven't gotten customer interviews, our rules kind of go that you won't be presenting because there won't be anything new to present. So keep that in mind as goes on. Second thing is use your mentor. You should be talking to your mentor every single week and going over and focus your mentor's time on customer discovery and understanding the concepts. This is not a presentation class. This is a learning class. So if you don't understand one of these concepts, you don't understand something, or you're struggling with it, focus the mentor's time on that because they know this all and they understand it all. The presentation's okay. It's mainly just to make sure that we're getting the work done. But the mentor work is that if you hear a mentor during your presentations that that sounds interesting to you, remember, you can call on any mentor in this group. So if you hear somebody talk or you want to get some more information, you can call in any mentor. And during your presentations today, this is not a dissertation. You don't have to defend your presentation, nor should you. And if you spend a bunch of time defending your presentation or defending what you're saying there, you're not getting the feedback. You're not getting a grade on this. This is all for you. So my suggestion is take the feedback. If you don't understand the feedback, ask a question. I don't understand what you meant by that. Ask that question, but don't defend it. Write it down. Say, okay. And if you say like, gosh, I think Art's full of crap. I don't think he got our pitch. Everybody will say that eventually, but so that's okay. But then talk to your mentor about what do you think we should do? Because I don't think folks are getting it, or I don't think they're understanding it. That's what you want to do with your mentor. I don't know if our value proposition is coming through because we still get the same questions every week that they don't understand it. And if you get a mentor by now that's saying something, I don't understand your value proposition, or I don't understand what your business is, that's a big problem. And you should be taking it up with your mentor and talking like, hey, well, why are we not articulating this correctly? One of the learnings you're going to get from this course is how to articulate why I should invest money in you. And you may be all ready to do that. And you may say, this is clear. If I don't understand and I'm an investor, you're not going to get my money. So that's what you're trying to learn in this class is how to articulate. Second thing, you're trying to practice presenting on your feet, how to get through in a limited amount of time, how to do it quickly, efficiently. Because the number one thing when you're trying to raise money is you're going to be pitching over and over again. And guys like me and Shomit and Stephen, we make a value judgment on presentations in like a minute. We really do. We look at it, and after about a minute, we're either sort of green, this sounds interesting, yellow, I don't know about this, or red, forget it, this is a waste of my time. We do that in about a minute or 2 minutes. The rest of the time, we're just being courteous, maybe. A lot of the time, we'll just say, hey, okay, I got it, thanks, we'll talk to you. So that's why this importance of this timing and getting your messaging across. This is all the time, a lot of the time, that you're going to have to present your pitch, to articulate it and explain it enough for me to say, okay, send me more information. You won't have 30 minutes. You won't have 50 slides. You'll have a very limited amount of time to do this. That's why this practice is so important, so that you feel comfortable and you can articulate your points on it. So think about that, and we'll go with that. Okay, I think Francis, you'll send us to the right places.
Yes, let me just show
And
this
again,
to you.
reminding the mentors that after you're finished, please come back to the main room. We're going to have a quick briefing again to avoid scheduling you for another meeting. So if you could come back after you finish, we'll talk for a few minutes just to get caught up. If you could come back.
Okay.
After you're finished in your breakout room, the rest of you are dismissed. You don't have to come back to the main room. You can just move forward.
Okay,
Have
take
dinner.
a picture of this, everybody, so I can send you to the appropriate breakout rooms. Ready or not? Here we go.
Thank you, Francis.
Art, you're going to room number 4. Justin, you're going to number 1.
Hi, I ended up in breakout room 3, but I'm supposed to be in 4. I'm part of Alpha.
Okay, you can go to 4 by yourself, but let me send you to it. Can you see it, Vanessa?
No.
Okay, 1 second. Let me stop this. Well, my because life is short. Okay, Vanessa, I'm gonna move you to number 4. There you go. You probably got an invitation now. Can you see it? Okay. Justin. Justin, you need to go to number 1.